To set aside a penny this next year on the tax rate would be for us to allocate approximately $400,000 for innovation this next year, and we think at this point, based on the directions that we've received from the Board of Education, that this is a luxury that we cannot enjoy in this district. We've asked businessmen to come in, take a look at our program to see where we could cut. They have recommended without exception that we should not cut, but we should add. They have suggested that we are understaffed. However, because of the limitations placed on us this next year, we do plan to reduce the size of our central staff this next year, particularly on the executive team, our executive members, plus members of our instructional staff. We will be sending a special task force to Austin on Tuesday. This task force made up of the superintendent, the new manager for business affairs, plus the director of vocational education, special education, certification, and other areas to meet with members of the State Department to examine very carefully where we might qualify for additional funds for the coming year.
We have some very fine trade schools and private business schools and private institutions in this state who are honorable, legal, and do a very competent job. But I think all of us are also aware that we have some that are fraudulent. They are doing less than a competent job, and therefore we feel that this committee should see what we might be able to do in the form of recommending legislation to have some kind of regulatory body in this state to do away with or to prevent in the future these abuses of the public.
When a policeman or a fireman or a deputy sheriff is killed in the line of duty, the board of directors will make a recommendation as to the needs of his family, and the board of governors then will be the ones that have the final say.
You provide funds depending on what they need.
Yes.
Jerry, we're proposing a starting salary of $708 a month. And
This is for firemen or firemen and policemen?
no, we only make our own recommendations.
Okay.
With special emphasis on some the inequities in an engineer's position.
How do you feel about that? Do you feel that the regulation is necessary? Is it being enforced too stringently? What is your view?
No, I feel that there has to be regulations on shooting your pistol, and Chief Dyson made it quite clear that an officer was not to fire his pistol unless he was statutorily and morally right. And if just taking out your pistol and firing a warning shot or firing at someone, a prisoner who is escaping, and is not legal.
No, sir, we do not feel that a lockout is anywhere imminent. We wish to avoid that. We do not wish to put this on an emotional state, and we think that a lockout could put it that way. We could be locked horns on an emotional battleground that really doesn't exist.
Do some of your members favor such action?
Certainly, we have some people that are outspoken in this area, the same as the union does. We intend to, through a democratic process, to keep this certainly on a business-like basis in negotiations.
How long are you prepared to go as far as negotiations are concerned and the workers off the job?
How long is a string, or how high is high? Certainly, we think we're much too close together to even think in terms of forecasting a time element in the thing.
But the existing welfare program is going to cost this country $12 billion by 1974. Something has to change. It's not good enough for Texas or for the country in 74. And so I want to see incentive built into it. I want to see discipline built into it. I want to see a person work. As you say, you oppose the handout, and so does everybody else. But they do want an equal opportunity to get a job and to hold it and to see that their kids are looked after when they're working. And so that's what I've been pushing for in this new legislation.
Well, we left June 28th, and we got back, well, I just got back this morning, which would be, the 17th of July.
You feel tired, but I suppose very satisfied, don't you?
Very tired, but even more satisfied. It was a tremendous thrill getting to talk to the wounded servicemen that we saw in the hospitals in Japan, the Philippines, and Guam. Tremendous thrill to have a chance to talk to these guys and and see how it's unreal to see that they have such high spirits. You wouldn't think that a guy that had been in Vietnam and was wounded over there would have his spirits as high as they did. You would think they'd be a little bit bitter, but that wasn't the case at all. These guys are just tremendous. It makes you feel good to know that you've got this type of individual representing our country.
Well, I think there is a place for buses still. You may be familiar with the dial-a-bus program, in which you can call up from your home and tell them where you are and where you want to go, and they can program a bus by your home. And it gives pretty much a taxi cab type service. This is being tried experimentally now. We could interface with the transit system that we're speaking of, namely an automated elevated system could interface with that type of a system so that both could be used, but we are talking about a total integrated system now.
Really, most of the resources of the capital investment program will go to conventional systems for some time to come, because the new technology has to be developed. And furthermore, there's a lot that can be done with the existing transportation network. For example, we in the Urban Mass Transportation Administration are working right now with 12 cities throughout the country in what's known as an urban corridor demonstration program, the purpose of which is to help these communities use the resources of our program and the Highway Administration.
Well, around 3 o'clock Mexican male got out of a cab and came over and asked if he would be able to stay and wait for his parents. And I said, okay. And about an hour later, he had his hand in the till.
How much money did he get out of the till?
He got about $200.
What were you doing while he was taking the money?
I was outside waxing my mom's car, which was in view of the station.
After he got the money, what did he do?
He put me to gunpoint and said take him where he said to in my mom's car.
Where'd you guys go?
We drove around for a while and we ended up in Garland, Texas.
Where did he leave you in Garland?
He left me in an abandoned diner's car in a stretch of track that never had been used for a little while.
Were you frightened while you were inside the car?
Yes, sir. I was somewhat fighting for oxygen.
I do have here with the aid and assistance Senator McKool, two young men who have been built into coming to Texas to take training. They represent the classic case that Senator Christie spoke to earlier and that Representative Salem addressed his remarks to. The problem has not been solved in Texas, and with all due respects to our city council and our city attorney, the enactment of the city ordinance has not solved all the problems at the city level in Dallas.
We're very happy to do this. We think it will, the first phase, which includes the research that's necessary to the overall program, will be somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000. And we will attempt to use our resources and staff facilities to raise this amount of money in order that the basic research, which we refer to as sort of phase one of this police program, can go forward.
course,
Tonight's talent winner is Miss Dallas.